Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the East Riding of Yorkshire series. Together with the unparished city of Hull, it forms the county of the same name. There's 172 parishes here. Which one are we in today? Welcome back to the East Riding of Yorkshire yet again, people. Now this one is a very interesting little village that won't take me all that long to walk around. The reason it's interesting is if you drive through this one from Bridlington anywhere towards the west, you go through this very narrow, very tight little chicane, which I'm sure has caught drivers out before. But it didn't catch me out, thankfully, so I'm okay. Let's have a little walk around it then. This place is called Grindale. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Grindale, Green Valley. This week in the East Riding we come to the smallest parish that remains among the 10 we've left to visit. This is Grindale, a tiny village located on a scenic route between Bridlington and Burton Fleming. With a population of less than 100 people, Grindale is often combined with neighbouring Boynton. It's a farming village, that's for sure. All around the place there are lush arable fields, and in the village itself I encountered some friendly livestock. Landmarks are few, but there's a church, an old chapel and a mere to discuss here. Grindale also has an airstrip too, used by a skydiving company. Now I don't know about you, but when I was growing up I watched a lot of kids TV. In the UK, one of the most popular kids TV shows we had back then was called Postman Pat. It was about the daily life of a rural postman who drove a red van and was always accompanied by his faithful black and white cat, Jess. Pat's round was in a fictional village called Greendale, and when I was researching this place, I did wonder if the two were sort of connected. The grin in Grindale literally means green, so theoretically we are in Greendale. Unfortunately, there appears to be no connection between this and the show, but I bet you're all singing the theme tune in your heads now, aren't you? Let's go. So this is Grindale, and we're on the main road here through the village between Burton Fleming and Bridlington. Grindale is a picturesque rural agricultural village with medieval origins. Its layout has remained largely the same since the 1850s, with houses and farms arranged on 3 roads that form an oval, circumnavigating a central mere. Grindale's farms are plentiful, but it should be noted that the number here today is a drop in the ocean compared to the large-scale farming that took place in this area in the late 18th and 19th centuries. It does feel, though, like a step back in time out here. Even though it's such a small place, it still has its own parish council. Here's a notice board, and with Grindale done, we are down to 9. The East Riding is in single figures. Grindale is also served by 2 buses, the numbers 12 and 13, which link the place to Bridlington. Now, any vehicle that navigates its way through Grindale has to be careful. This is a tight, narrow little village, but making life a little harder for drivers is a chicane-like corner at its western end. It looks like something straight out of a Formula 1 street circuit, doesn't it? I tell you what though, it's really effective at slowing traffic down. On the corner there's an old forge, which is the building you can see in shot now. Right next to that is Grindale's former Methodist chapel. Dating from the 1870s, this was in use by the Wesleyans, and it's the second chapel they had to their name in Grindale. This neat brick building would supersede the first, built in 1826. We're now on Mearside, and we're beginning to make our way around the oval shape that Grindale's roads form with each other. So far, there's been no sight or sound of Postman Pat, even if this is Greendale. There's no sign of Jess either, but you might see ducks at this point. Ducks are often found on the mere around which all of Grindale's houses, farms and other buildings are located. The mere would have been the main source of water for the village in past times, and with all the farming activity in the area too, it would have been a vital asset for livestock farmers. And speaking of farms, we're now heading around the southern portion of the oval, past some farm buildings and a lovely picturesque little green. I had to stop here for a few moments to take all of this in. There can be no denying Grindale is a pretty little place, even if it's relatively unknown to most people. Oddly, Grindale has no listed buildings at all, not even this house here on the next bend, which I thought was perhaps worthy of a listing. It's not to be though. I met with some locals at this point too. They were friendly enough, but they weren't all that good when it came to conversation. So instead I carried on up the hill to the church. Dedicated to St Nicholas, this is a country church that's almost entirely a product of the Victorian period, having been rebuilt in 1873 and 74 by the Lloyd Greaves family of Sowerby. It replaced a brick church of 1830, but its history can be traced back to 1115. It was once tied to the priory at Bridlington, who supplied most of its early curates, but records show it did have some degree of independence too. Opposite the church is another big house, the Grange. Again, it's not listed, but perhaps it should be. Our last landmark is directly opposite this. It's the old schoolhouse. With a teacher's house attached, this was built in 1858 by George Lloyd. It could accommodate 44 children. Oh, and it's worth noting, by the way, that behind this and the church is a set of earthworks, marking the position of Grindale's now shrunken medieval village. Okay, we are all the way around the village and the parish of Grindale. Lovely little place this. It's really small. It's one of only 4 parishes in the East Riding of Yorkshire that have a population of less than 100, and it's taken me, what, about 20 minutes, I reckon, to walk around it. Simple little village. Lots to see though, to be honest with you. Even though it's really small, there's still plenty to actually have a look at, isn't there? Including this church right here. Now, on the way out towards the next one, there's an airstrip of some description towards Bridlington. We'll see if we can find that to finish off. So the airstrip in question is actually part of a skydiving company at East Lees Farm, should I say. There we go, look, Skydive GB. Perfect place for a bit of skydiving this. I'd love it, quite frankly, if I wasn't so scared of blooming heights, because trust me, I am. So here's the lane that leads down to East Lees Farm. We'll drive down it for a little way. I don't know whether we're going to get really close to the airfield, to the airstrip, no idea, but we'll soon find out. And that'll do us for Grindale. Yes, indeed, the village has an airstrip which is used predominantly for skydiving. It's currently operated by the Skydive GB Parachute Club, and it's an approved drop zone of the British Parachute Association, founded in 1960 as British Skydiving. There are 29 such places across the country, and we've already met one of them before at the former RAF Hibblestow in North Lincolnshire. In 2016, there were nearly 6,000 full members of the association and around 60,000 students. The association is funded by membership subscriptions and has an annually elected council which controls all aspects of skydiving on behalf of the Civil Aviation Authority. Their headquarters are at Glen Parva in Leicestershire. And that will do us for the parish of Grindale. Next time we're heading out towards the coast. Bordering Grindale to the north and east is a parish which touches the sea and has some pretty steep cliffs, famed for having quite the collection of birds. I'll see you there. Thanks Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.